All right, we are here back again with episode 31 of the Trilogy Lacrosse Theater. We're going over from the players' side, current player side, to the current coaches' side. We've got the newly announced head coach. I guess now it's not so new, but relatively newly announced head coach of the NY Riptide, and my former coach with the Georgia Swarm, Dan Ladouceur. Laddie, how are we doing?
Good, Mitch. How are you, man?
Good, good. So you are logging in are you right in Toronto, or are you in one of the suburbs?
Just outside, in Whitby, just outside of Toronto, about 45 minutes outside the city.
Okay, Whitby, and that's where you grew up, right? You grew up in Whitby?
Yeah. I was born and raised here in Whitby. Literally, I think it's 3 kilometers to the house that I grew up in from where I'm living now.
Are your parents still around and in that house?
No, they're not in that house, but they're still local. Yeah, they're still here, kicking in the next town over in Oshawa. So, yeah, I get to see them a lot.
Nice. Is Whitby one of those places where people do you have a bunch of high school friends that are back in Whitby? Do you see people that you grew up with all the time?
It's funny. I do. I have 2 of my best buddies I went to grade school with. I remember in grade 2 and 3, sort of chumming up with these guys. And it's weird because outside of school, I never played sports with them. They played baseball. I played lacrosse. I played competitive hockey. They played house league and stuff. So I never played sports with them, just knew them through school. And yeah, they're 2 of my best buddies and still keep in touch. And it's kind of unique. I really value that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you were born in Thunder Bay, Ontario, which I've never been there, but I got to visit just because I love the sound of that. That's a little bit further north, right?
Yeah, think twice before you visit there. It's it's a beautiful country, and I wasn't there long. I was there. I was literally born there, maybe a couple weeks, and then my dad was my. I think my dad was actually even in Thunder Bay when I was born. I'm the 4th of 4, so the priority level goes down with the more you have, and he had to transfer down into the Oshawa area. So the move, essentially, I was born in Thunder Bay, and a couple weeks later, I moved down to Whitby, and I've been here ever since.
And so you were growing up. What you were born in late 70s, right? Early 80s.
73.
73. Oh, okay. So you're growing up mid 70s, late 70s. What is the lacrosse scene in Whitby? Is it already pretty well established?
The lacrosse scene in Whitby was pretty good. Yeah, it was called the Whitby Gerard Roadrunners, and back then it was all outdoor bowls. I mean, we played inside at a few of the arenas, but the lacrosse community in Whitby was well established by the time I ever even got a sniff of the game. I started playing soccer, and then my buddies that were playing lacrosse were like, "What are you doing, man? We're over here playing lacrosse." Now I was 8 years old when I started that, and they were just all my hockey buddies, and I got started there. And then the Whitby program just grew. It grew so strong. Grew to the point where, I mean, Whitby, we were sort of taking in players from other towns around us. It grew to the point where Whitby was so big that other places had to start their own programs, and it's really great for the growth of the game for sure. But it's always sort of been a hotbed.
And for the Americans watching that maybe don't know, in the system in Canada, you have your town program, which is the Whitby Gerard Roadrunners. But then that moves up to juniors, right? Which you can play until, is it 21? You can play juniors until
21. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then from that you move on to senior, which is the MSL, correct?
Yep.
Which is
right.
It's professional, but it's a little bit. It's not it's similar to the NL, but a little bit different, just the range of pay scales and things like that, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So when you depending on your center. So in Whitby, we have a junior A center. So I was able to play on my minor all here in Whitby, and then play for my junior A club here in Whitby. And then Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Lacrosse Club. Brooklyn is a small village just north of Whitby. So they were all kind of one. You know what I mean? As things grew, it sort of expanded out. But until then, Brooklyn and Whitby were as one. So when I finished my junior A lacrosse career in Whitby, I just started playing with Brooklyn in the MSL. And if you were from one of those centers that didn't have a junior A team, you're in the draft and you could get drafted to whatever junior A team, whatever loop. I mean, it is still amateur, and it's so normally teams try to take players that are close to them, that are going to be able to play, because we want, you don't want as many players as you can. You want kids playing the game for as long as they can. So For the most part, the drafts sort of you go to the sort of closest club and you play your junior there. That's kind of how that worked.
Yeah, and then once you get to the MSL, is it a free for all? Like you just happen to stay local for Brooklyn, but same thing where you have a draft, but you could play for any team, right? At that point.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. So Brooklyn would be able to what do they call it? I think hold, or they would reserve the rights to a certain number of players from their local club, and everybody else would go in the draft. So I could have ended up playing in Brampton or Peterborough or anything. I just happened to be to stay in Brooklyn. But yeah, exactly that. When you go to the MSL, there's another draft, and all the junior players are drafted to the MSL teams. And again, there's a little bit more travel in that. Like you pointed out, it's still amateur lacrosse, but you have all the players from the NLL coming back and playing for these club teams. And there's a lot of range in those club teams. Some club teams are all, for the most part, community owned. Some club teams have a little bit more money than other club teams that can compensate their players for travel or maybe even pay them a bit, which is, not technically amateur athletics anymore. So that MSL leagues gets into some really gray areas as far as actually amateur or people making money doing this. And it's not really even playing field as far as what the clubs have and resources they have to attract players to their centers.
I actually never realized that like Brooklyn could tag 5 kids from their youth program or the minor and junior program. I didn't realize that. That's an interesting way to do it. So you try to keep some local homegrown talent. That's very cool.
Yeah, and I don't know what the numbers that they can protect, but they can definitely protect some players out of their junior programs. If they have a junior affiliate, they can protect players out of it. Yeah.
And so you said you're the youngest of 4. Did any of your siblings play lacrosse?
No, I was the only one. My brothers played a little bit of, my sister played some baseball. I was the only one that played sort of competitive hockey and competitive sports at all. So yeah, it was just kind of weird. I'm the only one with red hair. I'm the only one over 6 foot. I think it was, yeah. My dad had some questions.
Well, we'll leave that right there.
Yeah, fair enough. Investigation continues. Yeah.
So was field lacrosse? And we're talking everything we've talked so far is all box, right? And
yeah.
Did you ever? What was your first experience with field lacrosse?
So my first experience with field lacrosse was in high school. I went to a Catholic high school in Ajax, which is just the next town over, and they didn't have field lacrosse. They didn't have a football team. They didn't have hardly any sports, basketball and hockey, some volleyball. But when in my last year there, they started a field lacrosse program, and again, pretty new to the people in Ajax and sort of this area, and it wasn't a whole lot of pool to choose from as far as players. So it was essentially our hockey team just sort of went outside on the lacrosse field, and that was our team. And I actually played attack, because I was one of the only ones that could catch and throw. So I played attack in field lacrosse.
Nice. So that's where you're racking up all your goals and your soft hands.
You know what? I should have done one of those highlight reels to send out to the coaches. It was great.
So at no point were you like, college lacrosse was probably not even really on your radar. I mean, this is like in high school, you're like, oh, this is just a fun thing to do, but I'm a box lacrosse player.
Yeah, huge regret. I mean, I think when I was coming up there, I think there was a field lacrosse program in Oshawa, again, which is the next town over, but I didn't know anything about it. I wish I had explored that. I think that opportunity would have been great. I think the field game would have been a lot of fun, a great experience. It maybe led to some other opportunities, but I just didn't know. I was late getting into the game.
Was there anyone like within your network that you had known that had gone down to the States to play? Like, had you heard about like junior or guys like that, or?
Well, Matt Shear and I were buddies. We grew up together. Matt Shear and I grew up playing box lacrosse together, and he got into that field side, and then he went down to Baltimore, played field lacrosse down in Baltimore, and played professionally in the NLL. Fantastic lacrosse player, and then he went on to have a great career with Under Armour. Unbelievable athlete, unbelievable person. That's the only one in my sort of age group that I knew of that took that track, did the SATs and did all of those things to grab that opportunity to play down in the States.
Yeah, it's always so interesting to me talking to different Canadian guys and talking to Callum Robinson, who's Australian. so much of it is dictated by like if someone in your tight circle went and did that, maybe that like opened your eyes, but otherwise you might not ever even know it exists, right?
I wouldn't even have known I mean, then again, watching my nephew go through it, you know, having to write the SATs a couple times, make sure you got the scores right, and then the whole recruitment process. I'm sure it was different when I was that age, but yeah, just to see how the games come along and the opportunities have increased for Canadian players to play down in the States. It's pretty interesting to watch. But again, outside of Matt, I don't even know exactly all the steps that Matt went through to have that opportunity back when we had the chance. So it's pretty interesting to see and watch the kids now, especially ones that I coached when they were younger, now sort of making that transition and getting into the American schools. It's kind of neat to see that whole process.
Yeah, those pipelines have certainly opened up for the college coaches to come up into the provinces for sure.
Oh yeah, the recruitment now is huge, right? If you're not, you know, most of the schools have some sort of Canadian scout or Canadian pipeline, like you said, for intelligence of, you know, who's up and coming and who's going to be eligible and how can we get them into our program.
Well, let's talk about, you know, making that transition from growing up to the professional ranks. Was the NLL always something that you aspired to? Was it something you thought like, oh, this is my end goal, or was that something that just kind of developed as you got older and older?
I don't think I remember coming into my junior, and I thought I just want to play the best lacrosse I can play. And like I remember my first year going into junior, I spent a bit of time in junior B, but I just knew I wanted to play the best. So that meant to get to junior A. And then when junior A was over, I still wanted to play the best lacrosse, and that was to get to the MSL and play in Brooklyn. And then when the NLL started, it was like, well, there's one more league of elite players that I really want to aspire to and play in that league. So that's kind of, I mean, I just always wanted to play the highest level of lacrosse that I could play, and that's kind of how my goal got set on the NLL for sure.
And so your first dipping your toe in the water was trying out for the Ontario Raiders. Where did they play? Did they play out
We
at
played at a Hamilton Cops Coliseum, I believe. Yeah, that was my first tryout. Les Bartley called, and it was just one of those free agent walk-ons. They'd done some scouting in the summer leagues, and I guess they'd done a draft. I was never drafted. I just got an invitation to come to camp and went to camp and made it all the way through and was cut right at the end.
How old were you at this point?
I'm sorry?
How old were you? Like 18, 17?
No, I was like in my 20s. I was playing senior lacrosse, yeah. So
that's right.
So I was, yeah, it was late. It was later. Yeah, but I remember getting a phone call and talking to Les Bartley, and I just so cheeky and dumb when I was a kid. Like I remember saying like, okay, I get it. You're cutting me. Like you're making a mistake, just so you know. But I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks. Just like what an asshole thing to do. You know, one of the greatest people I've ever.
High.
Oh my god! Like it's just such regret. Anyway, but that happened. Yeah, and I thought, oh well, I'll never have an opportunity again, and I was just going to keep playing in Brooklyn. And then the next year, when Hamilton moved to Toronto, I got a call back, and another not the proudest moment, but he called and asked if I wanted to come to camp again, and I said, listen, I'd love to come to camp, but I'm not going to come and just be a number for you. If you're feeling like, is there a job that I can work for and earn? And he said, yeah, there's definitely going to be roster spots. So I went to camp and I made that roster.
That's awesome. And what was anyone that you knew that was on that team, like as you were going through the tryout process, did you know any of the guys, or was this like you're coming in like as a brand new guy? And
no, I knew almost all of them, having played with or against the majority of them. Like so again, some of those other centers from Brampton, there's all kinds of players from Brampton and players from Brooklyn that were all sort of in that mix. And it was really weird because you're playing together, but I've grown up my whole life hating these players, always playing against them. And now here we are mixed together in a tryout format where it was pretty competitive camps and pretty physical camps. So yeah, that part was interesting, getting to know some of the players that like lacrosse now is such a small community, and the leagues overlap so much and the teams overlap so much that there's so many friendships and relationships outside of just your teammates. Back then, it wasn't quite the same. This was sort of the beginning of it for me, as far as building relationships with players that I'd always played against and never really had the opportunity to get to know.
And so you talk about the physicality of camp. I mean, you're known as a more or less physical player. I mean, were you scrapping during tryouts? Anybody that you had to drop the mitts with in tryouts?
No, they made that very clear. They're like, don't be fighting in here. We're not looking for that. We're looking for competitive. We're looking for physical, but don't waste your time. That won't impress us at all. But I do remember, like, there's some very physical scrimmages where, you know, you weren't holding back. I remember hitting one of their high draft picks in an open floor hit, and I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes that just seals your fate, right? That's you got to go. But it didn't. I was fine. But I do remember it was physical camps and grinding 2 days, and yeah, it was they set a tone for sure.
Who sticks out the most from your training camp, or your training camp tryout? Any like memories? You mentioned blasting the top draft pick, but any other guys that you really remember as like really welcoming you in or making you feel comfortable, or vice versa, making you feel like you're not making this unless you get through me?
I remember Kenny Millen. I played with Kenny for a lot of years, and I remember him being in Sean Williams in the dressing room, just bantering and chirping, and I thought, who are these two? Like, not these two. Who's Kenny Millen? I knew Sean, but I didn't know Kenny Millen, and his mouth was just going. And I'm like, who is this guy? Who is this mouthpiece? And then it turns out, what a great guy, great teammate going forward in years. But I thought, man, this is one of those guys that wouldn't mind lining up. But it turns out, what a great guy, a great player. And then the other one was like Derek Keenan was in our camp as a player. And I mean, having watched him growing up, you're just like, you're Derek Keenan. So, yeah, and again, it's like watching Casey Powell or the Gate brothers. Like, yeah, in the box world, Derek Keenan is legendary. So being on the same floor as him and then in the room and around him is just kind of like, whoa, this is kind of surreal.
It's funny because I never knew him as a player. I only knew obviously of him as a coach and his son. So I didn't realize he was such a stud on the floor. It makes a lot of sense given his success behind the bench as well.
Well, he was a beautician because he did everything, and that he played back when you played offense and defense. It wasn't two separate units. So he played offense and defense, and like he would scoring records like crazy, played tough defense. And I mean, the biggest thing that most people don't know about Derek Keenan, he was probably one of the toughest guys in the league. He fought every tough guy going. Like nobody protected him as a goal scorer. He fought his own battles, and he won the majority of them. And you could ask guys like Ed Camole, Glenn Clark, Jim Veltman, the guys that know him. It just, yeah, he was the real deal.
Well, we've talked about fighting a few times, so we gotta share some good hits here, because that's frankly, when you search Dan Ladouceur on YouTube, those are the first couple of things that pop up. But just walk us through what's going on here. I think you're welcoming a rookie to the league in this one. Do you remember when this was?
I remember this one. This one, yeah. So I lost a stick, and then Junior gets the ball there, so he's on the ground. He still has the ball, so I'm just tickling him, really. Nothing, no big deal.
The announcer says, and Ladouceur is tickling him.
Right? Like, I'm not hurting him. And he's probably chirping me on the ground there. He's probably yelling at me or saying something.
Oh, so you're picking up. I was wondering you're picking up your stick there.
I'm just trying to get my stick, and then I think that's McLeod.
Yeah, Matt McLeod.
Yeah.
He comes over and gives me a shove. He's a rookie. This is his rookie year.
Yeah. He comes over and gives me a shove. And if you go back just a little bit, I think that's Evie. I think that's big Evie. A little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
Right there. Yeah, that's Big Evie. So Big Evie and I have fought before, so that would have been okay. I wouldn't have minded that. But this really...
So, yeah, so like when a rookie, you're at this point, what is this? This is probably like midway through your career, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So you're established as someone not to be messed with. Like, this rookie comes up and grabs you. Are you like, do you really want to do this? Or are you like, all right, let's go?
So that one there, so Evie's grabbing me, so I think, okay, that's going to be all right. And then Matt's there, and Matt's helmet comes off, and I can hear Evie right here. Evie's right now, take your helmet off. I'm thinking, there's a no win on this one, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So you just...
So for someone, all right, so for an American who's like, maybe seeing a lacrosse fight, but they just cheer. Like, what's the tactics that go into winning a lacrosse fight? So
I don't
walk
know.
us
I've
through how
lost
you
more than
win, how you have success with a fight here.
I've lost more than I've won. So obviously, I'm just trying to use my reach really, because every time he's going to stand up, I'm just trying to stiff arm him away from me, and then just throwing those little lefts, and yeah, like that's a no win for me. I don't know. Like if he lands a lucky one, then he's a hero. If I land a really good one, then I'm a bully. There's no winning that one.
Yeah.
So,
Who's the toughest guy you've ever had to fight?
probably in summer ball, Kevin Biggs was pretty tough. And yeah, like a lot of fighting was in the MSL. That's where it's funny. I just met with Glenn Clark and Jim Veltman the other day, and we were talking about that. And in the summer ball, there was like legendary tough guys: Scotty McMichael, Andy Ogilvy, the Coyle brothers. Like there's just legendary tough guys. And I remember towards when I was starting my MSL career, Scotty McMichael, who's famous for being tough, was ending his career. So he picked more fights for me than I picked for myself. So as a rookie coming up, we'd be on the floor and he'd get into something and say, yeah, you think you're tough? Fight that guy. And then you're into it. So that was the majority. There was a lot of fighting in the summer leagues. For sure. I mean, years ago, it's way cleaned up now, which is good and great for the game. But when I was coming up, that's when the majority was.
And is it is it like playing juniors? Did you fight in junior? Like you're 6'6", right? So obviously people are gonna think, well, this guy, if we have problems, like Laddie will bail us out. Laddie will take care of us. Was it something that you were like, I'm happy to do this, I want to do this, or were you just like, oh, I'm the 6'6" guy, so I'll go out there and I'll do what I need to do?
I didn't do much fighting in junior at all. It was more when I got to senior. And senior, didn't really have a whole lot of choice sometimes. Your size, guys just grabbed you. It wasn't a whole lot of, you didn't get a lot of choice, but guys just grab you and start in on you. And so you either swing back or you get out of the way. So I swung back and it went okay. I learned a lot from Michael and Glenn Clark, those, tough guys. And you sort of, just kind of the best way to protect your chin and try to not get your next conky.
Well, we'll go over, we'll step away from fighting here because despite having some highlights of fights, I mean, you won 5 Champions Cups, which is unbelievable. I mean, especially when you consider you had an 11-year career, so almost half of your seasons you were a champion, including your first season in '99, right? Your very first year playing, you won the cup, which I always think, is that like a good or a bad thing, winning on your first year? Because that's like, you set yourself up for a little bit of an uphill battle going forward, and you're also like, this is so easy, I could just do this every year, right? And you kind of
you hear the guys say, hey, really, enjoy this moment. These don't come around very often. And then you're like, I just got here. I'm having it. What's the big deal? But yeah, I think the same thing sometimes. If it comes early in your career, the one thing I did like about it is that for me, it really, everyone says, oh, what's it like, whatever. It taught me, like, you can't tell someone how to win. You gotta learn. You gotta show, and you gotta experience it. And that's what winning early did for me, was like, this is the effort. This is the commitment that I made personally, and the end result was this team win. I know that if I do anything less on a personal level, I'm not contributing to that team win. So that sort of taught me what it takes to win, as far as commitment and that kind of stuff on a personal level. And then you can only improve from there. I knew the baseline. Like, I can't do anything less than this. I can always do more, but I can never do less than this.
And what were some of the most memorable guys that really were leading the way on those early teams, the '99 and 2000, the first 2 championships? Who was kind of the heartbeat and the soul of those teams?
Well, that's back when you played with Jim Veltman, Terry Bullen, Pat Coyle on the back end, Glenn Clark, like a guy like Rod Squire, Kim Squire's cousin. So Rod played on the back door, Kim Squire played on the front door, and Rod Squire was probably one of the best defenders I ever played with. And he was just so quiet, so unassuming. It just positionally, he was good. He was strong. He was tough. He was good with the ball. And then on the old door, you had like, your Dan Stroops and Colin Doyle and Kim Squire. It was just so much fun to watch, especially that combination in the early days of Colin Doyle and Kim Squire. Like it was just, that's when I think that was the first time where you kind of said, here's some ideas, go and be creative. And those two would just create so much space for each other and just have so much, and make those in-tight catches and finishes that were just sometimes just jaw dropping. And that was really fun to watch those guys.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the back door, like all those guys you brought up, and you talk about Veltman and you and Squire. I mean, it's kind of like a stoic back door, like not a whole lot of rah guys back there. You guys are like, do your job, like pretty stoic back there. So maybe that was part of the key to success on that back end.
Oh, and I remember there was no flash. And Pat Coyle as a leader back there, there was no flash. It was just like, hey, this is the right way we're playing the situation. That's it. We're not. It's not now for discussion. Be out there, close that gap, slide here, be anchored here, and that was it. Like it was just very directed, and just I guess maybe it's the personalities. Like me as a young guy, I crave direction. Hey, no problem. I'll do all of those things. Anything I can do, and it was very much business back there. There was not a whole lot of hype and not a whole lot of flash. It was just business.
And so you won in 99, 2000, 2001, you guys lost in the semis.
We lost to Philly. That year is one. We were talking about that the other night too. That was one of those years we should have won. There was no reason for us not to win, but we lost. We lost to Philly. And yeah, it's just one of those complacency. I don't know what happened. They say three-peats are really difficult, but we were positioned to do it, and we just let an opportunity slide. And I think that just made a lot of those guys in that room even hungrier, which, we came back the next two and won them back to back. So.
Yeah, well, we'll take a look. This is, I found this. This is from 2002. I think you guys are playing the Washington Power, which some of these games, some of these championship games they did like on NBC back in the early 2000s are awesome. Like the production quality is just, it's great. The fans are packing the stadium. The gates are on the Washington Power. So walk me through. I think you get a little screen time here. It's double overtime. So this is the championship.
Breakaway.
This is the championship in
breakaway?
2002.
Yeah.
You had a breakaway in this game, right?
Yeah.
Or the game prior, sorry.
Was it the prior one? I don't know. I know I had an opportunity.
But yeah, so you're out here on defense. Looks like you're throwing some guys around, but so what's going through your head in double overtime? You guys, so this is coming off, your chance to get back on top.
Don't mess up. That's it. Don't mess up.
Were you hoping that Whipper was going to give you the ball here? I saw you were the closest guy. Did you take right off?
Normally I'm the guy getting to the bench and getting off the floor.
Yeah.
But Whipper was an unbelievable goalie. Take it the safest outlet, and then put the ball in Jimmy Veltman's stick. That's always my goal. Get the ball out of my stick into Jimmy Veltman's stick.
Well, I thought it was interesting that Veltman came down. I guess once you get to that second overtime, right? You're like anything could go at this point, but not really like a full set here. Just kind of a little pick, and then he just takes it, tries to put that one in.
Yeah, this is it. Like, and Jimmy Veltman used to be an offensive player, right? He's one of those guys that transitioned his game to more of a D door in transition. And that's Blaine Manning, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Blaine Manning's rookie year. So he scores the game-winning goal, championship-winning goal in his rookie year. What feelings is this bringing back watching this?
Just like the excitement. I remember this opportunity. So Blaine Manning in his rookie year, look at the patience on the kid. Like, unbelievable. Like, to take that, he could have taken that first shot coming off this first screen, could have shot that, but just holds it and comes around a little bit further, makes that goalie take a step and buries it. Like, he's an unbelievable player and a great guy, a great teammate. He was a great rookie. What a joy having him, just because he was just so good, but he was such a good person too. It was, that was a great game.
Yeah, what an atmosphere. This was in Toronto.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's in Toronto. So some of those early, like the early games or early years in Toronto, our ownership actually paid for those TV broadcasts. we were getting great crowds, and they paid, like the first year they paid to have them broadcast. The second year, the sponsorship kind of offset it all. And then the third year, I think they were kind of making money on it. I think it became lucrative for them. I don't know that that's the case now. There's definitely not a TV deal in place, but yeah, it was, they paid to have that exposure, and it really paid off for them for a lot of years.
Daryl Gibson there, I saw he was on the team, right? So you'll face him in the Eastern Conference this year a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, how many guys on this team are on the floor right now are coaching in the NL? A good chunk, or at least a few, right?
Yeah, there's got to be, yeah, like Manning, Dalton's in the game, Daryl Gibson's in the game. Like, yeah, that's just a nice goal.
Yeah. So once you guys win this, are you like, okay, this is back where we're supposed to be? Was it like a relief, or are you just like so happy, like, okay, we're gonna keep this thing rolling again?
Yeah, I mean, again, you have that feeling that you know kind of what it takes, and then you have an idea of the room, of the people in the room with you, of is that the chemistry that it takes? Is that the feeling, the family feeling? Is that everyone says, oh, this room's like a family. But when it actually is, it's a different level, and you can tell almost right away with your chemistry. Like, I mean, we go back to our Georgia days, and when we won in Georgia, there was a feeling there. It was just it was a confidence. It was a trust. Really tough to describe, but it was an intangible, and it was a feeling down in your gut, and you know that there's something special and the potential's there.
Well, and how much do you think consistency is important to that? And I think this is a good. It'll be interesting to see with the Riptide, because it's such a new look, right? A whole new offense, more or less. And then, but how you had that consistency early in your career, and then Blaine Manning kind of led you guys for that next stage of wins, and at least from the offensive end. Like, how important do you think it is having that group, or do you think it's something that you can rebuild year after year?
I think the core group, your leadership group, is really important in that, because you are going to have, it's inevitable that you're going to have pieces move in and out. But when you have certain types of players come into your culture and into your group, the faster that they can assimilate and join that group mentality, that culture that you've created, then the quicker you're going to have success. Look at like I said, Wayne Manning was an amazing rookie because he just came in and just wanted to produce. It was nothing about him personally or what he wanted to accomplish on the floor. He just wanted to commit to the team. So I think you can have consistency, and I think it starts with strong leadership in your leadership groups. And I think it has a lot to do with the people that you bring in. And I think that's why, now come draft time, you have so many coaches and GMs doing so much background on the athletes that are coming into the draft, because as much as talent is important, character is as important or more, because we want to know what kind of character are you bringing into this locker room. Are you going to be a buy-in guy, or are we going to have to try to convince you that this is the right way to do it? Or are you just going to come in and say, show me what to do, and I'll bring my skill set and I'm going to add it to whatever you guys are building here? And I think to me that's important. That's part of that culture. And when you have that culture in place, your leadership group continues and carries it. And then the people coming in need to buy into it.
Yeah, and with the Riptide, I mean, who are you most looking forward to having kind of be a voice, be a leader on the floor for you guys this year?
Well,
Or maybe working with guys you haven't worked with that you're excited to bring to the table.
I haven't worked with Callum before. I've watched him play for years and just marveled at, like, why can't we shut this guy down? Like, why can this guy put 4 in a game? We should be able to shut him down. And a guy like Tyson Gibson, I'm really looking forward to watching Tyson this upcoming season, with Callum on that side, and Connor Kelly on that side, and Foxy's working hard on that side. And then on the left side, with Lomas there, I was reading something the other day, and I forget what I was talking about Kieran McCardle, like early on, and just how much I liked him as a player, just because of his versatility, his ability to shoot, all of those things. So I'm looking forward to that. And then obviously, when we get an opportunity to have Jeff Teed in the lineup, like, I watched him play Junior A in Alberta in the Minto Cup, and then some of his senior stuff. Like, the kid is amazing. His vision, the way he can distribute the ball, the way he can find space for himself, the way he just utilizes time and space. I'm really looking forward to getting to know him personally, and then also to watch him develop, because I think there's a kid there who's going to bring his skill set, and then there's going to be all kinds of leadership things that are going to fall in place for him. And I think it's just a great guy to have and to build a franchise around. And I think
Cornell
he's
guy,
going to really benefit.
Cornell guy.
What?
You can always trust the Cornell guy.
Big Red. Yeah, well, and that's it. Yeah, I see it. I mean, and to have Callum to lean on for some of those experiences and to develop that, I think it's a really good position for him as well.
That's awesome. Well, I'm certainly, as you kind of rattle off those names, I'm looking forward to watching that all go down, and we'll be even more excited when Teat gets to join them. But you're not. We joked about it, but I had to do a little bit of digging. You helped point me in the right direction, but I did find 18% of your scoring totals. I found your 100% of your playoff goals. So I think this has been called by many the greatest garbage goal of all time. Is that an accurate name?
I think the broadcaster actually, I think it was Joe Bowen that said that. Yeah, great job, Bonesy. Yeah.
See. So this is the one they said, okay, I think they said in this one, Ladouceur had a breakaway the game prior. So did you have in the semis?
And actually, in that Washington game, I had a breakaway in that game as well. And I went 5-hole because that's what D guys do. And it got through, and then it bounced out. I think it hit the bottom of it got through and then hit his heel and bounced out. But yeah, I had a breakaway, and I could have been a hero. But we left that for Blaine Manning.
Yeah, exactly. You got to let the young guy step up.
Yeah.
Look at it. Just Johnny on the spot with the soft hands there.
It's just the quick hands. And you really work on that kind of stuff.
It's just that they drew it up, right? You said you have a signal for like bang it off the boards, and that's how you knew?
No, that's just Glenn Clark shaking me off. Like I was wide open on the crease. He could dump that down there for an easy dunk or a reach around or anything like that. But no, he's gonna take a clapper there from mid range, put some high heat off the glass, and then
tough pass there. Tough pass to start things off right at his shins.
Okay, well I'm turning. I'm trying to pass it. Come on, Mitchie. That's a tough pass for anyone. Come on.
But you know what? You totally redeemed yourself right there. Understated.
You totally redeemed yourself.
Yeah.
Just when I thought you couldn't be any worse, you totally redeemed yourself.
So 6 career goals, 12 assists. Any empty netters in that 6?
No empty netters.
Okay.
No, I remember a goal. It was Eddie Camo actually. I think we were playing against Syracuse, and game was in hand. And like Eddie likes to do, he likes to kind of sit the O guys and start playing the D guys a bit more. He called me and put me out the front door. And I remember going up there and I'm thinking, what am I doing? Like, this is kind of new for me. I'd never gone out the O door. And he said, yeah, just next shift, come off here. I said, don't you embarrass me here, Eddie. And he goes, no, you'll be fine. So I went off that front door in transition, scored a goal right off the bench.
Yeah, love it.
I think it was my first goal.
Proved you belonged, right?
Yeah, that's right. I felt at home just for a little bit there.
I was going back and researching to see if we played against each other, because your last season was 2009, but you didn't play all the games that season?
No, I had some injury stuff going on in 9. I think I played 4 or 5 games in 2009.
So I think we just missed each other, because I think I was with the Blazers that year, and it looks like they did your retirement ceremony, I think, in the second Blazers versus Rock. They kind of recognized you at halftime, right, which I remember now looking back at the article. But I want to say it must have been the next year. Which, did you coach the year after with the Rock?
No, in 13 I started coaching with Toronto.
Got it, because we had a line brawl at the Air Canada Center. But it happened right before the whistle blew, so all 5 of our offensive players fought 5 of the Toronto Rock's defensive guys, so both sides got tossed. So there was 9 of us, or 10 of us on the bench. I was running, literally, I remember one shift where I ran out the O door, played a shift, ran back to the bench, ran onto the bench, down the bench, back out the bench door, and I was the 5th guy on. But I think I scored 2 goals that game because I was playing every single shift. It was like the ugliest I've ever seen.
I remember that game actually because it was comical. Any view of the bench was just absolutely comical, where you're having guys pulling each other off the bench just to get a blow and then get a drink of water. Yeah, it was that was nuts.
Yeah, I'm glad you weren't out there cross-checking me. Is what I'm saying. Is at the end of that.
There was some good times, that's for sure.
Well, you were inducted. We got one more nice video here of some awesome hit that I would argue I've never seen this hit, but I would argue is one of the better hits I've seen. And a clean, just coming down, you catch a guy. This is from your Whitby. So you were inducted into the Whitby Sports Hall of Fame in 2011, which I got to imagine is a pretty big honor. Coming being right in the hometown.
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, it was a nice ceremony. It is kind of nice in your hometown for sure.
Oh, baby. That's gotta be early in the career, judging by those jerseys.
Yeah, that's pretty early.
Cat-eye cage.
That's pretty early on. That was Chris Driscoll, and there was no penalty on that. That got some airplay for a long time, and Chris and I laugh about it now.
Yeah, he pops right up. It's a nice recovery, but it's just nice, clean, shoulder down, right to his chest.
Yeah, he's a tough dude. Like, all those guys they're tough as nails. You hit them all you want, they just keep bouncing back up. But yeah, it was that was the early days for sure.
So this is where you get a little. Is that against a stealth there? Look at that hair. Look at the hair.
Look at those locks.
Lush.
Starting to thin there, laddie. It's almost time.
There's Big Evie going after it.
That's Big Evie there, yeah.
And then interview a little look at
no hair.
Look at the high school Dan.
Yeah.
Love it.
Devil.
Here we go. This is we got some high elbows here. That one might be a couple games in this game.
Yeah, that was a little offside. I deserve that one. I deserve the deuce for that one.
There's one video I saw of you and a young Todd LeBranch walking you off to the bench. It was had to be some of Todd's original youngest days.
Young Todd LeBranch, and it's funny because I just talked to Chet Couture the other day, and he refed me for years and years, and we were just chatting on the phone, catching up, and he's like, yeah, let's get together, have a beer, and catch up. Like, probably owe you one for that penalty I gave you. And I said, penalty? Like, I probably spent 3 games in the box because of you. Like, you owe me more than a beer.
Yes. So you ended your career with 428 penalty minutes. Have you done the math on how long that actually is?
No, I've never done that.
Let's get the calculator out, because I'm not the swiftest with the math here. But let's look at how long that puts you in the box for. You spent maybe a full day. Divided by 60, so that's 7 hours. So you spent 7 hours in the penalty box. So a good day's work right there. That's one solid
shift.
With a nice hour lunch break.
Yeah, I got out for lunch. Yeah, that's nice.
But so you retired as the league leader. Was that something like? Do you take pride in that, or are you like, it's just part of the? I guess when you're fighting, that's 10 at a time, right, or 5 at a time. So impossible.
Yeah. There's a lot. When the majors add up, but. But again, it was a different game back then too. Like there was way more clutching and grabbing, and like they let the physicality stuff go, like the open field hits. Like there was no vulnerable. Like the rules were way different. So the style is more physical, and obviously you play more physical, you're going to get more calls against you. But now that the game has been cleaned up, and we're much more aware of player safety and the longevity of guys' career, and the sort of sport-like balance. I think it's obviously way better for the athletes. But yeah, the game is different when I played. And then you saw those elbows. Like I think I've done that more than once. Again, not proud, different time, but that stuff just doesn't fly now with what we know about concussions and head injuries and stuff. So yeah, I think it was just a product of the time that I was playing the game.
Well, that part of the fighting is almost to police that, right? It was like doing the job of what the rules do now, but it was like, if you're going to do that stuff, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, like there's an accountability portion for sure. But yeah, I think the rules now, like I think there's still some fighting and some policing going on in our league now, but much less because those, I think two things: the rules are in place, and I think players as well, that there's an increased respect in players for each other and not throwing those hits and understanding vulnerable hits and the repercussions for those long term. So I think that a couple changes in what we've done and how the game's evolved is sort of definitely minimize the amount of, the need for guys to be policing themselves on the floor.
And let's talk about, the shift of your mental mindset. You had this 11-year career, 5 championships, led the league in penalty minutes at the time. And then when did you decide, like, okay, maybe this is something I want to do behind the bench? This is something I can impact from not on the floor.
So I've been coaching my daughter in minor lacrosse, just, like most parents do. And like, there's not when she started playing, there wasn't a lot of parents that knew anything about the game. So you want to be involved. So I was coaching. And then when Team Ontario came up, Derek Keenan was coaching his son through Team Ontario, and he asked me to come out. That's kind of where I started, was coaching with Derek and Team Ontario. It's some pretty high level lacrosse, the best players across Ontario competing for our national championship here in Canada. So that was some good lacrosse, and I learned a lot from coaching with Derek, and I started to enjoy it, that sort of higher level. But I was okay doing some minor stuff with the girls and developing and skills, and then getting into a little bit more the Team Ontario stuff. But then when Derek took over the Warriors, the Junior A club here in Whitby, and asked me to come on board there, that's when I really got engaged, because he had a certain system. So it was one of those ones where I had to learn the system, and then I had to learn how to teach the system and how to correct them in the system. And that was, I think for me, that was the biggest development, was learning it, processing it for myself, and then finding the different ways to reach each player to make them understand. And so that, for me, that was a big development. I thought, I kind of like this. I like learning how others learn. I like learning how to communicate effectively with different people. What makes them tick, who do you scream at, and who do you pat on the bum? Like, you need to know those things, and that's about people, and it's about communications, about relationships. So that's kind of where it all started for me, for sure, was in coaching junior.
Well, talk about having some of the better coaches to be the ones teaching you. You learn under some of the best ever, right? And anyone that really, you obviously have the X's and O's side. I mean, you credit Derek as being where you learned the most from X's and O's, and then who did you learn the most from on the personnel and the relationship side?
I think there's always a healthy mix of both. So, I look back, and in that Team Ontario, I coached with Jamie Batley, Jim Milligan, Derek Keenan, and then in junior with, Jeff McComb and Derek Keenan, and then in the semi-pro league here in Canada, I coached with Glenn Clark. There's a lot of exposure to a lot of different coaches, outside of what I experienced being coached, working with guys on the bench. So they all have different elements. Like Glenn Clark was very, he delegated a lot. As an assistant, I want you to run the practice. I want you to show me your practice plan. Whereas a guy like Ed Camo comes up with his own practice plan, and then here's my practice plan. I want you to run portions of it. Like, everything was different. And then in X's and O's from Ed Camo, I think he's probably one of the best in the game. His lacrosse mind is brilliant. And same with Jeff McComb. Like, as an offensive coordinator, Jeff McComb, his versatility is unbelievable. His ability to be creative and read defenses and make plays up on the fly is really impressive. So working with him in junior was really eye-opening as well, and a great learning experience for me.
Who are some of the guys that have come through the Whitby program when you were coaching junior that people might recognize? Like, I might be on. Was Cotter, Nick Cotter? Is he Whitby War? Did you coach Cotter at all?
I didn't coach him at all. There's a couple guys, Shane Jackson, Mark Matthews, Adrian Sorchetti, Sheldon Burns, Danny Littner. I guess the list goes on.
That's a great start, right?
Shanksy. Like, the list really truly does go on and on. Buki, Higgy, all of those, they all came through the system. And great time to be a coach of the Whippy Warriors with a group like that. We won 2 Minto Cups together with a group of those players, which was really rewarding and learned so much for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I always find this interesting for guys that have played and coached and won at both of those levels. Like, what has been the most rewarding championship to win? You did 5 as a player, you've done 2 Mintos, you've done 1 NLL as a coach. You've done 2 national championships with the Peewees and the Bantams. What's been the most rewarding in terms of like getting the job done?
It's probably the Man Cup. I think most players that play in the MSL, the Summer League here in Canada, would qualify the Man Cup as the holy grail, as the one that you want to win. I think the Minto Cup as a player, because it's just like junior hockey, right? You have a time frame. You have just like NCAA school, like you have 5 years to win one. So I never won one as a player. As a coach, I did. So if you ask a Shane Jackson, Mark Matthews, any of those guys, maybe that fits in there because there is a small window to achieve that goal. But from my perspective, that Man Cup means a lot to me. It is honestly a marathon to win that. So I think that one to me is probably the most valuable, the most hard fought for sure.
And that was with Brooklyn in
2000.
2000. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll talk about your journey from defensive end, because you were a D guy. You scored 6 goals, and then your first year coaching the offense, your offense scored 266 goals. So somewhere in that between that 11 years of playing and then that time, you figured out how to put goals in the back net, even if it wasn't by your own hand. What was the secret, you think, to having so much success coaching offense?
I think it was really funny when I talked to Eddie about the job. His take on it, his philosophy behind it was really unique, and I thought it was really sort of progressive. Because I talked to him and he said, like, look at our lineup. Like, I'm not going to tell Lyle Thompson, Randy Stats, Shane Jackson, Jordan Hall. I'm not going to tell those guys how to score. Like, that's what they do. That's who they are. But he said you can help identify defenses, identify trends, identify how they're being matched up, identify weaknesses within defenders on a one-on-one level that might be able to give those guys an extra step because they don't need help scoring on goalies. That's what they do. They might need help realizing that this slide comes at this certain time every time. So maybe we could hitch that and then move it, draw a slide and get someone else open. Like, that's what they needed. That's what I could help with. That, and then the relationship side of just building a consistent buy-in to the principles that were in place already, and just make sure build those relationships so you can positively reinforce them, whether it's with good feedback or sandpaper or whatever is needed. Get that buy-in, build the relationships and credibility, and just make sure that we have all the guys on the same page when it comes to our principles, and then let them be creative. That's all they want, is an opportunity to be creative. And it's not so fun to watch. It really was.
Yeah. Well, and rattling through the Riptide roster, I think you got some fun to be had on that offensive end when everything starts clicking. Anything you're most looking forward to about the season? Obviously, when it starts, hopefully sooner rather than later. But whenever it starts, like, what are you most looking forward to?
I think it's that. I think it's getting together with the guys, building those relationships, and I'm looking forward to the challenges of saying, okay, this is how we're doing it. And those learning curves with each player, like when there's doubt or when there's like questions, reinforcing, nope, this is what we're doing. And then building relationships to the point where guys can buy in, like, yeah, okay, I see that now. Yeah, this is what I want to do now too. Not just I'm willing to earn it. I'm willing to make my mistakes and earn that buy-in and earn that trust level. But I'm looking forward to that journey with this group because I do think there's tons of potential there. I think Jimmy and Rich have done a great job in the off season putting together. They filled the barn. Now it's just time to have those horses, and now it's time to teach. Now it's time to guide and just let them run, because just like that Georgia offense, this offense could be creative. I think our defense got exponentially better in the draft and then through free agency. add Leo Storos to our back door. I think he's a great up and coming leader. I think he's one of the best communicators I've ever coached in this league, coached against in junior. So I think he's going to be a great addition back there. So there's lots of pieces that are falling into place. I'm looking forward to those, sort of like earning everyone's trust, earning everyone's buy-in, and then putting a consistent product on the floor from practice and prep right through to game finish. That's what I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, I will certainly be looking forward to calling those games from either high in the rafters of the Nassau Coliseum or wherever they have us doing it. But looking forward to that season starting up. I do have to say, I think they might need to do like some new marketing giveaway promo. Like there's one thing about all these coaches, it seems very similar. I don't know if there's like, is it part of their interview process? It's like, we're going to need to see a different haircut.
It's, well, I mean, we're just setting up our playoff run, right? So our playoff run, most people grow beards. We're just going to grow our hair out. That's it.
I love it.
Run.
I love it.
That'll be amazing.
We gotta share. Speaking of growing the hair, this is something that The Rock did a couple years ago that I thought was just fantastic. And honestly, yours is cool. Colin Doyle's is even cooler. They do this like the rewind with the headshots, looking at Dan Ladouceur through the years, going back, and it's just you just slowly sprout more and more hair here from back in the day. Look at that! Look at the young Danny Ladouceur with the mean mug and the goatee there.
Yeah, a few less scars and a little bit more hair.
Yeah, and the Colin Doyle one is just
this one's a beauty. Yeah,
he just goes from a man to a straight up punk kid off the street.
That's back in the early ones when he's eating McDonald's after every practice. He's a beauty.
He's got the ear.
Look at that hair.
Chain, looking awesome. The hair pooped up. Well, we always end with a couple kind of quick hit questions. So, if you had to name your favorite place to play lacrosse, what is that?
Philadelphia.
Awesome.
Like just the atmosphere in Philly was always great. I mean, Calgary, Colorado, all those are great as well. But the Philly, on the floor, during the game, after the game, upstairs, just mingling with fans, Philly is one of my favorite places to play. Still is.
Awesome. Anyone who comes to Whitby, what is the must-visit spot? Whether it's a restaurant, a bar, where do you got to go if you're coming to Whitby and you're making a stop through? We'll skip Thunder Bay. It sounds like there's not an answer.
Well, I would say if you're coming to Whitby, you should go to the Royal.
Okay.
It's a local establishment. It's full of characters. It's on the seedier side of things. However, there's always a great story that comes out of the Royal. You always got to go to the Royal.
All right, awesome. Good to know. Good to know for my future travels here.
Yeah. Make sure you tell me when you're going.
Okay, we'll do.
Make sure you get out of there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need the police on my side, I think, if I'm ever up in Whitby. Best teammate you've ever had?
Best teammate. The best teammate I probably ever had was my roommate, Glenn Clark, was probably the best. I remember, and I say that because even through junior, I remember being a call up in Brooklyn, and I was on the bus and I was sitting behind him, and he was drinking beers on the bus, like on the way back, which did back then. But he would just talk to you. Yeah, he was a good teammate for me and a good roommate and good role model.
All-time favorite lacrosse memory?
I think it's your first championship, my first championship in '99. Yeah, because I didn't have any success in junior. But yeah, it would be '99. Again, because of the learning that goes into that. And also, my other favorite teammate was Josh Sanderson. It just came to mind. I'm looking at a picture across here, and there's one really small player in the lacrosse. It's an old picture, but then I just remember loved playing with Josh because nobody won better than Josh, and no one lost harder than Josh. Nobody competed harder than Josh. Like just a great teammate, fantastic teammate.
His ability to run down that side and like you think you got him covered and just reaches that. It's like, I still think of that. Like, I'm like, how did the stick has eyes with him was like the most realistic
Oh,
thing. Just pushes it, not even a hard shot, just pushes it over the goal's shoulder.
no, it's a tennis racket of a stick, but he just places the ball, and his vision was great too. Like his ability to see the floor in the space where players are going to be. After this pick, I know you're going to be over there. I'll just put the ball over there and you go get it. Like, yeah. And again, just his passion. I've never met anyone like that.
How about most embarrassing lacrosse story?
Most embarrassing lacrosse. Oh, well, I guess it was early on. I had, getting ready for a game. I took some Sudafed because I was sick. And I overdid it on the Sudafed. So I came off once, and I said to the trainer, Dave Murray, I said, like, something's not right. And oh, something's weird. So we go off, and the doc comes and checks my heartbeat, and he's like, you can't play anymore because your heart is about to come out of your chest. So anyway, I learned a lot about supplements and when and what to take and when and not to take it. So that was pretty embarrassing because I started the game no problem and then left the team shorthanded. That was embarrassing just because of my ignorance. So that was embarrassing.
Something you are most looking forward to learning about Long Island with your time with the Riptide?
Easy. Cold cheese slice. That's it. I heard my nephew told me about these cold cheese slices, and you can get them in bodegas or wherever. Like he said, you just gotta do it. It's a Long Island thing. So I'm all for it. I'll give it a try.
I haven't had this. I might be a first timer with you too. Cold cheese.
So a guy he coached, Stigsy's his name, says, you got to go on the island and get a cold cheese slice. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, that's not like a ninth green at 9 thing, is it? You're not going to like end up getting run out of town. You're going to a deli.
I hope not. Yeah, I hope not. Like it all sounds legit. So I'm all in for a good slice.
Perfect. Well, Laddie, I really appreciate you doing this with me, and it's been really fun catching up. And I love hearing the different stories of the days of yore from the NLL, and it's cool talking to guys like you who played in a different era and now are continuing to shape it with your coaching, and you bring such a positive energy. I'm really excited to see how that translates on the floor of the Riptide, and very much looking forward to watching you guys work this season.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I look forward to it, and thanks for the walk down memory lane. I always enjoy those times and love sharing. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Laddie, have a great day, and we'll catch up soon.
All right, sounds good, Mitchie.